So now we have our third expansion from 2013 to the present. We've added 11 clergy, half of which are from here in Texas, the Holy Family group. You may wonder, why do we have 5 here for those who aren't here, who aren't familiar with it? This place is big. They need it. They need the help. I know in Archbishop Harms's mind, this would have been his place.
Paradise.
Because this was his, he thought this could happen. But we've all, in our worlds, have only been able to keep a small little bubble. It's just not been the kind of place that this has been. And that's fine. Archbishop Harms accepted that. Our ministries tend to be smaller and can be contractual. But this place is like, whoa. And over the years, Father Jamie and I have been in communication about what's been going on. And I've been worried more for his health than anything else. He can't do it all himself. So we added the 5 clergy here to take care of needs. And as it's turned out, it's worked out very well, because you do your piece, Father Libardo does his, Cleophas does his. Everyone has their own little thing. Just as I said last night, the gifts of the Spirit, each one does their own thing. And it's kind of like the Lutheran model, believe it or not. The ELC Lutherans do the same thing, because I worked for one for quite some time. And they had a senior pastor who was in charge, and they delegated all these other things to other people. And that's what they did. They specialized in it. It makes sense. I don't know why Rome doesn't do it, but that's just the way it is. Yeah, it's power. So we now currently have a presence in 13 states. So we went from 9 to 13. And they're from coast to coast. The current active clergy number is 20. So my going over the history has been very interesting these last few weeks, putting this together. That seems to be our bubble. We can't get above this and maintain it for very long. I don't know why. But that's around the 20 to 25 marks, our magic number. And then something happens and it goes back down and it goes back up. So it's like a balloon. It just comes and goes. I can't wrap my brain around it. It's what happens. I think it's because once I get beyond this number, it's hard for me to keep a grasp on all of it and do the necessary follow-up and communicating and visitations and all that, because I don't have the money to do it. It's very hard. So I've got to figure out what the real root issue is beyond why we can't get bigger than this. I think that's right. OFM has 4? Because isn't Bill, is he still in the process?
He's still in the process, so he,
So it's 3.5?
Well, yeah. he's a member, but he's not a professional.
He didn't take his first profession, but I figured he's still.
I need to move him into the novitiate.
Okay.
I'm thinking.
So it's Father Michael, the guardian, which is Father Chris, and the newly professed Jim Calderon out in Pennsylvania. Those are the 3 full-fledged, professed, courted brownies, for lack of a better. And then the last one is Bill Bradley, who's been in discernment for 2 years now.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't 2 years when we had the General Assembly? Yeah,
I think so, yeah.
So anyone's interested in Franciscan spirituality, there's your man.
And I'll go over some of that stuff tomorrow. So if anybody's interested, I will take your name, get your habit size ready, and we'll sign you up.
And we're not closed just to OFM, okay? I know we've talked about Benedictine and a couple other people who are interested in,
The mention of Dominicans and Jesuits.
yeah, all that. It's just got to be different. Because the way the OFM is structured, I'm not taking your thunder.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Even though they're an independent order, Chris is not independent and oversees them independently. What I'm saying is, the presiding archbishop still has that last little bit of rope to keep sure that things don't go south.
To simplify it, it's probably you would be like the general, so to speak.
Yeah.
Every order has like a general or a major general or a general provincial. That would be somewhat And unless we got massively big, then we do have a structure in place that kind of works within that. But that's way down the road if it ever happens.
Right.
We gotta get numbers of like 80, I think is what our number is before we get.
Well, we can't get past 20.
Yes.
But Michael, even with the generals, they're still under the Pope.
Right. And so that's what I mean. There's a structure there that works within that still leaves the presiding archbishop as the final say.
And the reason why that's set up that way is I didn't say it during one of the earlier contractions and expansions. There was another order for a very brief time. Because that individual who set it up with one other person wanted autonomous power. That individual was the same one who claimed his orders, and he was found not having them. It was the same one who made the false accusations against the Archbishop. So we can see there's a chain of events why things happen the way they might happen. Because someone got pissed off and decided to get back at Larry. Welcome to independent Catholicism, everyone, because that's how it
Get
works.
his face out of my mind right now.
Yeah, I didn't make a slide because I didn't want to revisit that. Because it didn't last very long. I'm talking like days or weeks at the most.
Archbishop?
Yes.
One little footnote from my own personal research is that some of those folks from 2013 that left and went to that Virginia group,
They're not there anymore.
they all left the Virginia group.
Right.
too.
After it's only 2 hours.
Yeah. No.
So right now, Holy Family, 2012 to present. I've added you because we're here. So you want, I know you had more questions than everyone else about what was happening. So I wanted to make sure you knew your history. So we added the 5 clergy. We started small and had explosive growth. We mentioned that during the homily last night. We all start somewhere small, and it doesn't get bigger. Well, Jamie's got the Midas touch. Touches it, and it goes boop. Does help that he had a following here. I have to say, that makes a difference. He had a Roman parish, and he left, and like I said, sometimes people follow you. But in this case, the right people followed him and made it work. And I say that because in the years that Archbishop Harms and I were looking at bringing other people in who were interested, meaning parishes, there were a few Roman parishes who came to us saying, our church is going to be closed, the bishop's going to close it. What do we do? So we sat and talked with these people. And unfortunately, they didn't have a clue to the fact that they weren't in charge. They didn't understand that the bishop held the deed. They didn't understand that no matter what they did, it could be stepped on by the bishop of the diocese. So we presented the idea that, you know what, if you can't keep the church, you can bring the group somewhere else, buy another one under an assumed name, and blah, 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 blah. But then you're going to need to find a leadership within the laity to run it. The ELCA model. That's how the Lutherans do it. The Lutherans, the spiritual works and spiritual work is done by the clergy, and the laity take care of the rest. That's how the Lutherans do it. Doesn't work that way in Rome. But Holy Family got it. I don't know all this story. I'm sure we talked about it over this weekend. But the right people with the right gifts and the right ideas got together and said, we can do this. We have the resources. We can make it work. Here's the product of it. You have Holy Family, the way it is. It's, for lack of a better analogy, you look much like a Roman parish. That's why I think a lot of people might be confused. But it is what it is. It's a Catholic, independent Catholic group that has control over what they do. As I say, off and on, at the pulpit, at the ambo. What you have is yours. I take nothing. I don't take a cut of what you guys do. All the money you guys raise is yours. That Jamaica money, that's yours. What you do for your building fund is yours. I don't expect anything. Use it for your communities. Grow. I'm here to do what I'm doing twice a year. 41 Confirmande again. That's a big group this time. We started out in the 50s to 60s and dwindled down to the 20s, and now we're up to 40 again. But that's what I've done. Why I come out and do that twice a year, because we figured it's easier that way. But that's the model that they have here, and it works.
Can I ask Father Boy a question real quick?
Sure.
How do you communicate to the general public information about the church in such a way that you get tremendous numbers of people coming in for confirmation? How do you get that information out to them?
We announce it. It's on our announcements, part of our Sunday bulletin.
What happens is, it within the community, word gets out.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's the biggest push.
You know
from
this,
the
Hispanics are like the Hawaiians. It's called the coconut telephone. You say something to one Hawaiian, the entire island knows it in an hour.
community. Yeah.
I think it's that way with how this works out, because I've noticed that some of the confirmandi now are coming from as far as Dallas. Words got out, that doesn't cost you $3,000 to get your confirmation. Well, that's when you spend the time and the tithing and all the other things. By the time all said and done, it's about $3,000. Doesn't cost you that much. Hey, we can come somewhere else and get valid confirmation. Hey, that's a great idea. Sacraments should not be bought.
Where you're gonna be accepted. and not
Exactly.
tolerated.
Right. But sacraments are never to be bought. And for fortunately, our Roman brothers have kind of forgotten that. That's all right.
Yeah, Bishop, I think one of the parishes charges like $1,000 for a wedding ceremony.
Yeah.
That's their stipend, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
In my area, I've got a parish right around from me, $3,000 just to rent the church. That doesn't include anything else.
$3,000?
$3,000 to rent St. Joseph on the Rio Grande.
And the most I've gotten was $1,400, and that was a donation because they liked what I did, and I got money from the parents. I only charge a couple $100 for my time. I can't charge for the sacrament, but I charge for my time and the distances. But this family was so happy that they got a Catholic wedding, and et cetera, et cetera. And I got checks for both sides of the family, and when you pulled it all in, it was, so that's different. But I'm not going to come up and say, this is how much it costs, because it doesn't work that way.
Well,
So-
it wasn't until recently that we could even accept this thing. I
Right.
was told that when I was
No.
ordained, I could.
I know,
accept it.
yeah, no, I changed that because
Yeah.
I figured that it
Or
was
a
just,
collection at mass.
yeah. So why I mentioned is founding Archbishop Parham's vision and model. You guys fit that model. And what do I mean by that? Originally, Archbishop Larry thought, if we're going to grow the church and start with small communities, the best way to do it as they grow is to call people from within for holy orders who are called. Father Roy is one of them. Deacon Lamone and Angelita is another. You, my friend, were a permanent deacon up until you came over to us. But the point was, Holy Family has done what he's wanted. A self-sustaining parish without any help, doing it all on their own, and calling their clergy from within. That was the original vision that Archbishop Parham's had from the very beginning. Once a group got large enough. Because there's got to be vocations, you got to just cultivate them and nurture them. That was what he hoped to be able to do. And here's where it's happening.
Are we still embracing the model of the worker priest?
Yes, that's the other part. Everyone has jobs, right? For the most part. Father Jamie, school board, he does some consulting work. I mean, to Angelita's point, yes, we have jobs, we have work we have to do, but we fit ministry in. It does. God provides, it'll happen, it'll work out. I've got work back in Milwaukee. My parish presence used to be very small, but now I do assisted living centers. I have 2 of them in 4 masses now. Plenty of weddings and baptisms and funerals. All of a sudden, I've gotten people who are coming to me. Works for me, no problem. But the point is that this is a community building situation. It's a church for the God's people, but it's also building from within. And Holy Family has achieved that. So if you have questions on how this was done, talk to the one who's not here, who will be back later, Father Jamie, because he's got some answers. I don't know if he has all of them, but he certainly knows what's happened and how this has all transpired. And now, what Angelita was asking, not all ACCUS locations fit a parish model. Father Don comes to mind. your ministry is where you live, at the senior community. Same thing, you got a small group. College. I didn't have much, now all of a sudden I got assisted living centers because the people that I worked with at one, who was the director for the activities, went to another place and she called and said, can you do it here? We don't have anybody coming. Well, sure. Find out they have 3 different buildings. So I'm doing 3 masses there on one day. It's great, it's 10 at a time, so it's no big deal. And for senior centers, it's a half hour. So it's an hour and a half of my time. No big deal. The wedding presences. I mean, granted, we all want, maybe we do or we don't, we want the model like Father Jamie has. But realistically, do you want that? It's a lot of work. If you have the time, it's great. But it's not always what's going to happen. And Archbishop Harms realized this. That's why he called them pastoral centers. There's centers where people can have pastoral care. There's centers where people can come together and receive the sacraments. Not a parish where you're expecting a big group of people who have a regular worship cycle. It just sometimes doesn't work that way. Also, Larry came to realize that sometimes he called it a transient church. What did he mean by that? Some weeks you get a huge group of people come in, and they won't come back after a while. And then they come back again. They come and go. Larry always felt that our calling was to serve the underserved and those who needed it when they needed it. So they come when they need it. They come when they need what they need. And then when they feel that they're fulfilled or whatever reason, they move on. Or they come to town, they do what they need, and they move on. Larry came to grips that it's okay. Census wasn't a big deal. That's why the ACCUS in my offices does not have an official census or membership. I don't require it for any of your parishes. I know Father Jamie has one, but I don't have access to the names and the numbers and all that. I get numbers of things going on, which the vicar of clergy will talk about in this discussion. But the point is, I don't keep like Rome does, the big, huge roster of, the gold book.
That's why I've got a mass mail in front of me.
All the money, yay! No, I don't do that. We don't do that. That's why you never see a bishop's appeal for a second collection and all these other things that you used to see if you were in Rome.
I appeal for my first collection.
So that was the idea. Not everybody fits that model, and it's okay. As long as you're filling the core mission statement and your core to what you were ordained for. Serving and loving all of God's people with no conditions. That's all that matters. Heck, I was joking the other day when I came in, I don't wear this on the plane anymore. I used to travel because it was easier to get through TSA, and then TSA pre came in and I don't care anymore. I get stopped in the middle of the airport. Father, will you hear my confession? Well,
No.
yeah. This was lucky because I was in one of the clubs, so they had a small room that you can rent for conferences. And I asked them up front, could I use this? And they said, sure. Did the confession 5 minutes, we're done. I mean, it's fine. If I'm called to do it, I plan to do it. But sometimes it's like, especially when we're flying nowadays, we don't always have that luxury of time, and things of that sort. But the point is that you could be called anytime. If you're called, answer.